Okay, welcome back to another episode of Third and 23. I'm your host, Alex, here to bring you my second video on the college football playoff semifinal, the Cotton Bowl between Ohio State and Texas. Looking at this game opened at a 6.5 point spread for Ohio State, favoring Ohio State. Has since dropped to 6, and some books dropped to 5.5. So it depends on where you're looking, but it's been basically kind of fluctuating between 5.5 and 6.5, depending on the book that you're looking at. But what I'm looking at, I'm seeing a 6 point spread for Ohio State. So when we look at this game, first it makes me think about the preseason. I did a preseason prediction video on the college football playoff, and in that video I gave you guys 3 futures that I would recommend doing. I said these are the only 3 teams that can win the national title this year, so I'll do a future on all 3 of these teams. We had Georgia, they got bounced, and then Ohio State and Texas were playing in this game. So that should tell you that coming into this season, I believe that these were 2 of the best teams in the country, and just like most people did, most people thought these are the 2 best teams or 2 of the best teams in the country. And if you've seen that this year, you got Ohio State. It's been spoken about many times. Paid $20 million in NIL money for this roster, and they were pretty much waxing teams along the way. They had that tough road game that I expected them to lose in Eugene, so that was a tough one. And then the shocking loss to Michigan. But other than that, they've been as good as advertised. And in Texas, same thing. Unless your name is Georgia, they've been going through everyone. And what both these teams have is talent, right? Go to Ohio State, running backs, receivers, NFL next level talent. Both of those at the skill positions, defensive side of the ball in the front 7, flush with NFL players. Look at Texas, no slouch either, right? All Americans on the back end, outstanding linebackers led by Anthony Hill, and then big up front on the defense side of the ball with great edge rushers, great players inside. And then on the other side of the ball too, on offensive line, for example, Calvin Banks, projected to be a first-round draft pick in this upcoming draft. So both you're looking at, in my opinion, when I look at this game, you're looking at the 2 best teams left in the college football playoff. To me, this is the real national championship game. No disrespect to Penn State or Notre Dame, or all disrespect, however you want to take it. So now let's look at these numbers and kind of take a look on what I think are going to be the key factors, trends, etc., that are going to determine the winner of this game. So first off, let's talk about Ohio State and Will Howard. Will Howard in the college football playoff has 630 yards passing, 11.5 yards per attempt. He cooked Tennessee. He cooked Oregon. But there's one thing I'm going to say about Will Howard, and if you're an Ohio State fan, you might disagree. You might not like what I say. Will Howard has never looked that good. He never looked that good at Kansas State, and he never really looked that good this season either. You could say that Michigan loss was the loss they needed. Maybe it was the loss he needed. But he's never looked that good. And there might be reasons why he looked that good, particularly against Oregon. I talked about it in last week's videos when I was doing the Oregon game. Ohio State was just better than Oregon. Oregon, I think, has a great coach in Dan Lanning, but they don't have the player to match Ohio State player for player, pimp for pimp. If you guys know that line. And then you look at the running backs. Ohio State wasn't using Trevion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins as much as they should have been using them earlier in the season. They were never really in the flow of the offense. I didn't like the way they were being incorporated by Chip Kelly and Ryan Day. Against Tennessee, 26 touches for 177 yards between Quinshon and Trevion. Against Oregon, 28 touches for 200 yards. So now they got them in the offense. That's what's helping open up the passing game for Will Howard, throwing downfield to Emeka, to Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and those guys. So this offense is heating up at the right time. This is an explosive offense, and they looked what they should have looked like the entire season. They've looked the past 2 weeks. So they look like it when it matters. And you look at Texas, you look at the defense. I've spoken about it many times. I think Texas has the number 1 defense in the country. If you look at their stats, statistically, they're the number 1 pass defense in the country. But in the college football playoff, we've seen some cracks. Against Clemson and Cade Klubnik, they allowed 300 yards passing to Cade. Now, Cade is a really good quarterback, and a lot of that was in comeback mode as Texas kind of had a big lead, and then Clemson made a storm back to try to make it a game before Texas ended up pulling away. But then you got the game against Arizona State. Texas is dominating 24-8, and the Texas defense is dominating. And then all of a sudden, one trick play later from Cam Scatterbo to the receiver for a touchdown, and Arizona State just went on a crazy run. Ended up with 500 yards of offense, scored 31. Arizona State's 31 points they scored is the most points Texas has allowed this season. So maybe starting to see some cracks in that Texas defense. So now when I'm looking at this game, how do I think it's going to play out? You see that 6 point spread open at 6.5. To me, that's that what do you want to call it? You know, prison of the moment, if what have you. You see Ohio State boat race the number one team in the country, the Oregon Ducks. But that's if you really believe Oregon was the number one team in the country. I can tell you one guy who didn't. That's this guy right here. I never believed that was the number one team in the country. Credit to how well they played this season, but that's not the number one team in the country. Ohio State crushed them. Ohio State crushed Tennessee, but they got them at home. They got a Nico who's just not ready, who's not there yet, and it was just a perfect storm. I'm not trying to take anything from Ohio State. I think they're the best team in the country. But I don't think that this matchup against Texas is going to go like those matchups. First off, Oregon doesn't have a defense that Texas have. Despite the cracks that you've seen in their defense the last 2 weeks, man, these guys got all of them. These guys are legit on the back end. These all Americans at safety. Anthony Hill is legit at linebacker. He's serious. They got serious edge rushers. Will Howard is going to go against the best defense he's seen this season by far. And I just don't think that Will Howard is going to look like Will Howard of the last 2 weeks in this game. I don't see that happening. Now let's look at the other side of the ball, the other quarterback. Quinn Ewers for Texas, I've spoken about many times. You know what Quinn Ewers is going to do in this game. Quinn Ewers is going to miss some touchdowns with some poor throws, some inaccurate throws. You know it. I know it. Hell, he probably even knows it. It just is what it is at this point. But what I will tell you is there's going to be opportunities for these big plays because what Ohio State's weakness is, in my opinion, is on that back end. I saw Dylan Gabriel in Oregon cover him up in that midseason game. Dylan Gabriel in Oregon put up some big passing yards last week too, but I mean a lot of that is in comeback mode. But that doesn't take away from the fact that there is a weakness there in those DBs. There's not, Denzel Ward back there. I'll take it even further back, man. There's no Sean Springs back there at corner either. Texas has a group of very fast wide receivers, and now these guys are about to be at full strength. Isaiah Bond is reported to be. He's been practicing with the first teamer, so he should be back. He should be playing in this game. That's their best receiver. Their best receiver in a stable, speedy wideouts, and Quinn Ewers does hit some passes. I'm not going to sit here and say he misses every throw. He does hit some passes. He does hit some passes downfield. So Texas is going to hit some big plays through the air in this game. So for me, when I'm looking at this, I see Quinn Ewers going to be inconsistent, sure, but he's going to hit some big plays down the field. Will Howard is not going to look as consistent and as explosive as he looked in the first two playoff games. So now, to me, I'm looking at the running game. Trevion and Quinshawn, real deal. But they're going against a big-time run defense in Texas. Wisner and Blue for Texas, been good, but them other times, they haven't been so good. They're going against a big-time run defense against Ohio State. So for me, this is a tight game. This game is too tight. And for me, the bet to do in this game, the bet that I'm going to do in this game, is I'm taking Texas with a +6. Both of these teams are championship caliber teams. I'm expecting a title fight in this one. I'm not expecting this, Ohio State. Some people think Ohio State's going to run away with this, and I just don't see it. There's no way I can see Will Howard being able to carve up that Texas defense. Just like there's no way I can see Quinn Ewers doing the same, or there's no way I can see the Texas running backs doing that to Ohio State's front seven. So this, in an evenly matched game like this, I like that Texas with a +6. So anyways, that's my video. We'll see what happens in the next couple days. If you like the content, please like, comment, subscribe, all of that. As you can see, my YouTube handle here in a few seconds. Take care.